Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padurika Acharya Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padurika Acharya Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, and Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayan Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamadirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, We should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. We got a real shedder here. Any little movement, and I lose petals. Anyway. Okay, so today is, on this 27th day of June, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Canto 5, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 19, A Description of the Island of Jambudweep. We're going to read text 11 and 12. 11 is prose and there's no purport, so I'll chant it myself. Om Namo Bhagavate Upashama Shilayo Padathanatmaya Namo Kinchana Vittaya Rishi Rishabhaya Naranarayanaya Padamahansa Padamagurave Atma Ramadipataye Namo Nama Iti. Translation. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Narayan, the best of all saintly persons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the most self-controlled and self-realized. He is free from false prestige, and he is the asset of persons who have no material possessions. He is the spiritual master of all Paramahamsas, who are the most exalted human beings. And he is the master of the self-realized. Let me offer my repeated obeisances at his lotus feet. So this is Narada Muni speaking, and we'll learn that soon. And now we'll go on to text 12. Gayati chedam kartasya sargadishu yo nabadyate nahanyate dehagato api daikai drashtur nadrig yasya gunar vidushyate tasmai namo asakta vivikta sakshine gayati chedam kartasya sargadishayo nabadyate nahanyate dehakato pidaikai drashtur nadrigyasya gunaya vidushyate tasmai namo sakta vivikta sakshine gayati chedam kartasya sargadishayo nabadyate nahanyate dehakato pidaikai drashtur nadrigyasya gunaya vidushyate tasmai namo sakta vivikta sakshine gayati chedam kartasya sargadishayo nabadyate nahanyate dehakato pidaikai drashtur nadrigyasya gunaya vidushyate tasmo namo sakta vivikta sakshine gayati chedam kartasya sargadishu no nabadyate nahanyate dehakato pidaikai Drashturna Drigyasya Gunai Vidushyate. Tasmai Namo Sakti Vivikta Sakshine. Gayati Chedam. Kartasya Sargadishu Yo Nabadyate. Nahanyate Dehagatopi Dahikai. Drashturna Drigyasya Gunai Vidushyate. Tasmai Namo Sakti Vivikta Sakshine. Anyone else? Gayati Chedam. Kartasya Sargadishu Yo Nabadyate. Nahanyate Dehagatopi Dahikai. Drashturna Drigyasya Gunai Vidushyate. Tasmai Namo Sakti Vivikta Sakshine. No? Gayati Chedam. Kartasya Sargadishu Yo Nabadyate. Nahanyate Dehagatopi Dahikai. Drashturna Drigyasya Gunai Vidushyate. Tasmai Namo Sakti Vivikta Sakshine. Anyone on Zoom?
Gayati Chedam.
Gayati Chedam.
Kartasya Sargadishu Yona Baddhate.
Kartasya Sargadishu Yona Badyate.
Nahanyate Deho Gato Pi Dahikai.
Nahanyate Dehagato Pi Dahikai.
Drashturna Drigyasya Gunai Vidushyate.
Drashturna Drigyasya Gunai Vidushyate.
Tasmai Namo Sakti Vivikta Sakshine.
Tasmai Namo Sakti Vivikta Sakshine. Gayati. He sings. Cha and. Idam. This. Karta. The executor. Asya. Of this cosmic manifestation. Sarga Adishu. Of the creation, maintenance, and destruction. Yaha. One who. Nabadyate. Is not attached as the creator, master, or proprietor. Na. Not. Hanyate. Is victimized. Deyakataha api. Although appearing as a human being. Daihikai. By bodily tribulations, such as hunger, thirst, and fatigue. Drashtuhu. Of him who is the seer of everything. Na. Not. Drik. The power of vision. Yasya. Of whom. Gunai. By the material qualities. Vidushyate. Is polluted. Tasmai. Unto him. Namaha. My respectful obeisances. Asakta. Unto the Supreme Person, who is unattached. Vivikta. Without affection. Sakshine. The witness of everything. The word affection here means being affected by. You look it up in the dictionary, that's one of the meanings. It doesn't mean he has affection like liking. You'll see in the translation. Okay. Translation. Narada, the most powerful saintly sage, also worships Naranarayan by chanting the following mantra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the master of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this visible cosmic manifestation. Yet, he is completely free from false prestige. Although to the foolish he appears to have accepted a material body like us, he is unaffected by bodily tribulations like hunger, thirst, and fatigue. Although he is the witness who sees everything, his senses are unpolluted by the objects he sees. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that unattached, pure witness of the world, the Supreme Soul, the Personality of Godhead. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described as Satchidananda Vigraha, the body of eternity, transcendental bliss, and full knowledge. Now, in this verse, he is more fully described. Krishna is the creator of the entire cosmic manifestation, yet he is unattached to it. If we were to construct a very tall skyscraper, we would be very attached to it. But Krishna is so renounced that although he has created everything, he is not attached to anything. Nabhadyate. Furthermore, although Krishna has his transcendental form, Satchidananda Vigraha, he is not disturbed by the bodily necessities of life, which are called daihika. For example, he is never hungry, thirsty, or fatigued. Nahanyate dehikato vidahikai. Then again, since everything is Krishna's property, he sees everything and is present everywhere. But because his body is transcendental, he is above vision, the objects of vision, and the process of vision. When we see someone beautiful, we are attracted. The sight of a beautiful woman immediately attracts a man, and the sight of a man naturally attracts a woman. Krishna, however, is transcendental to all these faults. Although he is the seer of everything, he is not afflicted with faulty vision. Nadrigyasya guna vidushyate. Therefore, although he is the witness and seer, he is aloof from all affection for the activities he sees. He is always unattached and separate. He is only a witness. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chukshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. And that last sentence means, therefore, although he is the witness and seer, he is unaffected by the activities he sees. He is always unattached and separate. He is only a witness. So, Narada Muni is offering his glorification of Narayan Rishi. And Narayan Rishi has been a puzzle to me for quite some time, because here he's referred to as one person. But oftentimes it's like two people. Arjuna and Krishna are said to be Nara and Narayan, like that. So we won't go there right now, since I'm not sure how to resolve that. But he's described here in the verse and in the purport as the creator, the witness, but yet completely unattached. That's the first thing Prabhupada talks about in the purport. That although he is the creator of everything, he's completely unattached to it. This is something that is one of the binding forces of the living entity in the conditioned soul in the material world. We not only become attracted to things through our senses and mind, but when we participate in the world and we create something, we become very attached to our creation. The first and most prominent is your own children. That's certainly an attachment. But beyond that, whatever you may, like Prabhupada refers to a skyscraper. If artists, they always want to make sure they have their name on the painting. Of course, we have our transcendental artists, they often don't sign it, because they're doing it as a service. But when you put your imagination into something, your energy, money, whatever it is, then that's mine. I created it. You want to be recognized for it, right? So Krishna doesn't have any of that. He creates everything. Everything that we may create is just a secondary creation, because then you have to ask, well, where did the skill come from? Where did the intelligence come from? Where did the idea come from? It's all coming from Krishna. So he's actually the creator of anything that we may think we can create. So this is one of the attachments that we have to overcome, material attachments in the material world, in our process of devotional service. This is why this Trinadapi Sunichena verse is so foundational. Trinadapi sunichena, toradapi sahishnana, amanina, manadena, kirtani eksadahari. So, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, always ready to offer honor and respect to others, but not wanting any respect or honor for oneself. In such a frame of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord incessantly. So why is that? Why does that give one the power? Why is that those prerequisites? Well, we're kind of in a battle here in the material energy. We don't know it in the conditioned state. We're completely controlled, but we're certainly in what is it? Struggle for existence, strong struggle for existence, which we eventually lose in every body. But that's going on, and in our effort to conquer the material, or at least live in the material world, we need to form alliances. Our false ego, which has brought us here, is giving us this identification with the body. Krishna's famous verse, we can all chant together if you know this one, Yasyatma buddhi kunapetvi dataki swadika datvadashapomi jadi. Krishna is painting the picture of the conditioned soul here. First thing is we identify with the body. That's not just human being, but every species. That's who I am. This is who I am. And what is it as a kunape? What does a kunape mean, you know? It's a bag or a corpse. It's like a corpse-shaped bag full of wonderful substances like mucus, bile, and air, which one of those is all attractive. You know? And this is what we identify with, and this is what we become attracted to. You can see how absurd it is, how illusory it is. And so that's me, and what is mine? Kalatra Adishu. This is the famous expansion. The Kalatra is the wife and expands. What is it? Pungsasriya mean Bhaname, Tayam Mino Grantamaho, Atta Griha Cheta Sutta Apta Vita Janasima Hoya Mahamameti. The same idea of me and mine, which is the essence of false ego, is started out with the sex desire, and when the sex takes place, or because marriage is there, then it expands. Griha, you have to have a place, like a home, a chetra, which is a field where you can raise food and support yourself, or it can mean a job, any way that you can support it. So those are two big things, prerequisites. Then comes children, sutta, apta, relatives, and to support it all you need vitai, money. So all of this creates a great bondage for the conditioned soul. And you're identifying with yourself and mine, and this is mine, and then it's taken away, and that's the source of, or a thread is taken away. So this is material consciousness. And that's why he says it generates janasya moho, complete bewilderment, characterized by me and mine, yamaham mameti. So that all begins with sex. So that's why the first regular principle is so important. So this is our plight in the material world and conditioning. And Naranarayan Rishi, he is kind of giving an example. He is helping us to become inspired to perform austerities. Because through those austerities, prescribed austerities, double divyam, not demonic austerity, one can overcome this false ego, become detached from the body, from the extensions of the body and all these things. This is the purification. This is that famous verse by Rishabdev. Nayam deho deha bhajang niloke, kashtan kamanate vidbujange, tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddye jasma brahmasaukyam tvanantam. Such a foundational verse. The first thing he's getting on the case of his 100 sons, or he's giving them sharp words to help them become detached. And that is, having attained the human form of life, one should not act like a stool-eating hog, simply absorbed in sense gratification. Kashtan, working very hard to get the object of the senses and then enjoying them just like the stool-eating hogs. Nayam dehabdanja loke kashtan arhate vidbuja. Arhate means human beings do not deserve to do this. It's not proper for someone to waste human form of life like this. So the alternative is the second half. Tapo divyam putraka. O my sons, you should perform divine penance, spiritual austerities for purification. Putraka yena sattvam shuddhyed. I mean, then your existence, sattvam, will become purified. Well, what's the use? What's the good of that? Yasmat, from there, Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam. You gradually become eligible to enjoy unending spiritual happiness, which is ever increasing and doesn't come to an end. So that's the choice we have as a human being. Prabhupada introduced us to that choice. Otherwise, we stay completely in darkness. So this is the role of the great acharyas. They risk their lives in order to enlighten even one person, somehow plant the seed, somehow give the light of transcendental knowledge. That's why I always pray, as we have on the back wall over there. O Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appear just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our heart and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. This is really how we should meditate on our lives. So we're so fortunate, and the gratitude should be intense and ever increasing. That's what the samsara prayers are about. That's Gurvashtaka. Samsara dhavananalita loka tranaya. Tranaya means delivers us from this blazing fire of material life, which is based on illusion and ignorance of me and mine. So Naranarayan Rishi, he's exemplary in his performing of austerities, divine austerities, as an example. And this is really how the movement, as the Krishna consciousness movement, was founded and how it's grown. And that is this idea of an example. It's not enough just to have the books. There have to be example. Srila Prabhupada was the first and the most brilliant and eternal example for us. That's why we should. I've just been reading this wonderful biography of Yamuna Devi, and the whole thought in San Francisco, how Prabhupada's presence there. He stayed there for several months, and then went back to New York, and his dealings with all the people and the devotees who was what attracted so many to take up the chanting of the holy name and become initiated. There's a scene, another book, I don't know if it's in this one, describing when he was getting ready to leave. So many people wanted to take initiation. Some hadn't been involved more than a couple of weeks. Prabhupada was initiating anyone. Anyone could come up to his room and get initiation. And they left a whole, coterie of initiates there in San Francisco and went back to New York. So Prabhupada was the great example of everything he was teaching. And this principle has to be carried on by us also. That we if we're serious and we take up Krishna consciousness, that means we're ready to follow the four regulative principles. Those are like the first and main austerities. And by following, then the process works. Otherwise, nivittatar shayrupigevimanad, that you can enjoy or you can experience the medicine to cure the disease of birth and death, which is the pure sound vibration of glorifying Krishna vibrated by pure devotees, nivittatar, free of material desire. Bhavashrota manobirama, it's not a bitter medicine, it's very sweet. Bhavasha Shrota Manobirama, delightful for the ear and the mind. So who would not be attracted? Kautamo Shloka Gunanavarat, Puman Virajeta Vinapashugna. Except those who are meat eaters or killing themselves, by gross sense gratification. And so this makes us eligible by being serious about following those four regular principles and the practices of devotional service. They go hand in hand. Then they really have the effect quickly, and we can appreciate them and begin to taste the alternative to sense gratification, which is transcendental happiness that comes from chanting Hare Krishna. So this Naranarayan, one of the things he's teaching us is not the necessity and the ways of austerity, but the need of being willing to be examples for others. This is one of the ways the book distributors understand. If they're in good consciousness and they're blissful, and then people can be attracted. Krishna speaks through you, and people say, "Well, I want to be like this person has something that I don't have: peace of mind, joy, knowledge. Let me check it out." So that principle is there throughout, and it works on in every level of Krishna consciousness. So you remember in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, we're just reading this now in the 4th chapter, that I've created the varnashram system. Chaturvarnya Maya system, Gunakami Bhagavad. Tasya kartam abhimam vidyakartam abhyayam. That although I created it, I'm not affected by this creation. The same principle mentioned here. I've created this, for the good of society. But I myself am not attached to that. Those who know this about me can also become unattached. This principle of just knowing Krishna, Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam, his pastimes, his qualities, his activities. Now why is that? Because that serves as an inspiration. That serves as an understanding that, well, Krishna is eternally beyond the waves and whirlpools of this material energy. Even though he's in it, in a sense, he's deeply involved, but he's not attracted. Whatever he's doing in terms of the material world is just for us. He doesn't have any need or desire to come to this world or to create the world. But it's necessary. Prabhupada often points out, the prison house is necessary. Why is it necessary? Because the people who are incorrigible criminals, they need to be separated from society, so they don't cause havoc in society. But in a real society, not like modern America, we have more prisoners in this country than any other country of the world by far. And we don't have, we have 300 and some odd million people, but India has 1.5 billion. China has more than that. But they don't have nearly as many prisoners, because the prisons are not really operated as reformatories. They're not operated in such a way that they want to, in general, almost always, to improve the life of the prisoner, try to wean them away from the criminal lifestyle, which is what they should be. They were more like that in earlier days. But that's what this prison house is. It's not just for punishment. It's for teaching. And unfortunately, we're so pig-headed that we need to be punished in order to learn the lesson. At least in order to learn the lesson, we need to reflect on all the suffering that we've experienced, and realize it's a very bad deal to try to enjoy senses in this material world, because it always leads to suffering. And unimaginable suffering you don't know, because it keeps you here in the material world. And then you can go into so many lanes and channels of very, very sinful life. So where is their safety? Where is their security? Where is their hope? There's hope in Bhakti Yoga. There's hope in Krishna's teachings. There's hope in the Hare Krishna movement. The hope is unheard of in the material world, is that you can end your suffering. First of all, even on this plane, just taking up Krishna consciousness seriously has so many material benefits. You can be peaceful, you can be free of anxiety, and you can be naturally joyful, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, But that's just an indication of the eternal benefit of breaking out of this bondage of birth, death, old age, and disease we've been in since time immemorial, and going back home, back to Godhead. As Prabhupada said, with Satchidananda, Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, and that world is Satchidananda. It's eternal, it's full of knowledge, it's full of bliss, and that's our heritage. That's where we belong. This is all artificial, all of the material bodies we've been in. So these, Prabhupada's books in general, and these passages, what are we meant to do with our natural attraction? We become attracted. The sex desire is kind of built in. So that's the desire, that's the attraction that has to be purified. From kama back to prema. You should know this famous verse, this little Bengali verse from the Adi Lila, chapter 4. Atmendriya vritti vancha tare bali kam Krishnandriya pati icha dare prem nam. Very essential. That karma is the source of our bondage here. Just read the end of the 3rd chapter. It's very clear. It's very obvious. Material desire, self-centered desire, probably called fruit of desire, which is unlimited. We live in this world, we develop more desires, that we didn't have before because the senses contact. It's endless. But that karma is simply prema that has been curdled, if you will, by contact with the material modes of nature. Because we turned our back on Krishna, ishadapetasya viparhyo smriti, asmriti, very key line, the source of fear. Bhayam dutiya benavesha daksat ishadapetasya viparhyo asmriti. 2 lines, he analyzes a whole entrapment here. This world is characterized by fear. So much of you realize the sinful activities, the sensual pleasures are engaged in often just so we can forget our existential position here. It's a covering. It's part of Maya's trick. But really, it's just suicide. It's suicide to just allow your mind and your senses to run riot with that. So this as soon as we turn away from Krishna, from the shelter of his lotus feet in the spiritual world, and we become absorbed in the dualities of this world, then our position becomes reverse. Instead of directing our attraction and our love toward Krishna, which is wholesome, and living in that reciprocation, we direct our attraction, it's drawn to the things of this world. How I can enjoy, what I can enjoy, I'm the center. And therefore it becomes upside down. Viparya means reversed. And asmriti, we forget everything. Forget about Krishna, we forget who we really are. And that's in every form of life, what to speak, in human life and everything. So that's the existential problem that we have. And what's the remedy? Simple. Turn back toward Krishna. Yanmayato, it's caused by Maya, by Krishna's Maya energy, bewildering energy. Buddha, that's the key. We have to be intelligent. Abhajetam, worship him again. How? Bhakti Aikayesham, one-pointed, serious bhakti. And Guru Devatatma, under the guidance of the Guru, who you recognize as your very self and your worshipable Lord. That's the verse. In fact, the whole process is fallen redemption is right there in that one verse. So in order to, abhajetam, to practice that bhakti, as described in this very verse, one has to accept the guidance of a genuine spiritual master, and surrender and accept those things that are favorable and reject those things that are unfavorable. That's what surrender means. What is that? Anukulyasya sankalpa, patikulyasya varjitam, rakshishyatiti vishvaso gopidve varanam tada. What's the elements of surrender? The first is accepting those things favorable and rejecting those things unfavorable, which is there for any discipline. That's often a big surrender. But at least we should aspire to accept everything favorable and aspire to give up everything unfavorable. And then further, rakshishyatiti vishvaso, to be confident of Krishna's protection. This was beautifully expressed by Kunti in her, her prayers. They had experience of that, how Krishna protected them in so many dangers. Gopad vevananantata, and be confident of the support of this is yoga and shema. This is yoga and shema, the necessities of life as well as your security, which is protection. Atmanikshepa karpane, and to be atmanikshepa, surrendered and humble. How does it? Accepting the will of Krishna? Yes, have no separate interest. Karpanya, having no separate interest separate from Krishna and being always humble. So it's a challenge to us, proud Kali Yugites in human form. But that's the formula. So how can we come from the state of contamination and false ego and pride to that state of surrender? By taking part in the process. This is the chanting of the holy name is the prime benediction for humanity at large. It is this great source of purification. Cheto darpana marjanam. What are we being purified of? All of these elements that desire to enjoy, the doubts, which are, again, Maya is giving us these doubts, so this will keep us in her grip, So the doubts have to be destroyed. And that's another reason why great examples of devotees like Srila Prabhupada, he could destroy his doubts just by his words and his personality. In other words, he was the example of what he's speaking about. Just to have the books is not enough. The book and the personality, the same. And the books become potent because he puts everything in it and he's speaking through. Everyone can understand that. So this Narayan Rishi, he especially shows the necessity of austerities. Can you imagine? That's his function as an incarnation, right? To always be showing severe austerities. But that means he's full of compassion for us. We need the example. We need the instruction, and we need the benefit that comes out at the other end. Because the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is that what starts out as an austerity gradually turns into the greatest happiness. It's an austerity. I mean, you join the temple. All right, I'll stay for a weekend. Let me try it. So the first austerity is, are you kidding? Getting up at 3:30? Prabhu, you hear about how the ashrams. I mean, the lights go on, the bedding is taken up. You have to get up. This description of Philadelphia when Rabindra Swarup was there. So, but then, it's a mode of ignorance. Okay, get out of it. And then comes the cold shower. I won't go through that, pastime that I had when I first took my first cold shower. It's an austerity, but then it becomes something you do. It's something you go through, and you see, oh, this is really necessary. This is helpful. You realize how these austerities are really helpful and essential. And so once you get into the routine, after some time, it's not like it was, because your mind isn't battering you. Like, how can I do this? No, it's something that you're used to. The mind, it's becoming, you're becoming accustomed to the austerity. So that's true of everything. But there's also a need to keep it ever fresh. For instance, like the Tulsi prayer, the Tulsi song we sing. Did someone say here in the class? I didn't notice that there was objection from Prabhupada's God brothers.
That was Nanda Chaitanya for last week.
Okay. Oh yeah. That we're singing that. My desire, my deepest aspiration is to be your maidservant, and Manjari Baba, and to always remember Radha Krishna Leela. Isn't that a little bit much for your hippie devotees? And Prabhupada said, no, he gave it to us, and it's been that way. But the idea is that the presence of mind. This is why in everything we do. In other words, we can go deeper and deeper, certainly into the holy name. But everything, the Gurvashtika prayers, the Tulsi prayers, how we deal with each other, our relation to the temple, looking out, I don't go on the altar, but you maybe see me puttering around. This doesn't belong there. There was some old towel on the altar this morning. I actually noticed it when they opened the curtains, because I'm right up front. I said, well, come, what is this? From last night, I pulled it off. But that's, Prabhupada is always aware of his environment, right? That came up, how he was very aware of everything he did. This was another thing, lifting a phone to answer the phone. He's kind of, this is my service to Krishna, I'm doing, in other words, rather than just taking the phone. Everything we do is meant to be an offering to Narayan. There's a verse like that. Kayena vacha manasendriyava buddhyatmana vanusatatsabhava karoti yadyat sakadam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayeta. It's apparently a famous verse. And it's the expansion of Yat Karoshi Yadashnasi. Whatever you do with your body, with your words, with your senses, with your mind, with your intelligence, whatever you have been given to you, be aware that this is an offering to Narayan. Can you imagine what a state of mind that would be? You're walking from here to there. You know, your mind isn't elsewhere. Oh, I'm walking for Krishna. I'm cooking for Krishna. I'm cleaning for Krishna. I'm taking rest for Krishna. I'm eating for Krishna. You know, Krishna's in everything. And that's how you get to the point of not doing anything. That's nice karma. You're not doing anything on your own account. It's all simply coming from Krishna's desire. I'm doing this because I'm doing this and this and this because of Krishna's desire. I'm not doing that and that because of Krishna's desire. So that's the consciousness of the pure devotee. Every moment remembering. And this idea of avismriti, which is, I think, is coming up in a verse or two. Constant remembrance, not forgetfulness. There's what is that? Smarta vyaktatam Vishnu, vismatobhyo najatichit. One should always remember Vishnu and never forget him, right? So I always thought, when I was reading this, I said, that seems kind of redundant, isn't it? But no, it's not. Because we do so many things to remember Krishna, which is good. But then we have to avoid all those things that help us forget Krishna. And that's tougher, you know. We're all chanting, you know, that's helping us remember Krishna. The mind may be wandering, all right, but it's wholesome, it's good, you know. But the more that you can not do those things to forget Krishna, then all the things you do to remember Krishna, you can have a much more complete absorption. You know, that's described at the very end of the Bhagavatam, and I'll stop here in a minute. There's 8 verses that I dub the Krishna Katastaka. It's all about the benefits of Krishna Katha. The whole Bhagavatam is that way, but this is 8 constant verses. So it goes through. I won't go through the whole thing right now, but the last verse it gives you the benefits of avismriti Krishna padada vindayo, means constant remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet. Now we had this translation, which is, I'm sure, still there in the Bhagavad, some sets we have. I don't know how it's been printed anywhere. It's not, avismriti doesn't mean just remembrance. It means constant remembrance, never forgetting. So constant remembrance of Krishna has these benefits. This is where we should, you know, I'll end on this. Avismriti Krishna padada vindayo chinotya badrani chashantanoti. So the first thing is it destroys everything inauspicious in the heart and in your life. Chinotya badrani chashantanoti. Sham is in the word Shankara, as a name for Shiva. He who causes welfare for, you know, pious souls. So Sham is a word meaning everything good. Tanoti expands everything good in your life. You know, by remembering. Sattvasya shuddhim. We're back again, purification of your existence. Paramatma Bhakti, it inspires pure bhakti to the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Characterized by jnanam, vijnana, viraga yuktam. Accompanied by knowledge, realized knowledge, experience, and detachment from matter. All from more and more that we can remember Krishna's lotus feet, the more and more we can become completely absorbed in chanting the holy name and all other services. So that's that I'll share with you. I don't have the reference right now, but it's a wonderful section. And you know that 3 verses, I'll end in this. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti who points this out. He says, these verses are very important because they bracket the whole Bhagavatam. The one beginning, we should know this one. Nayad vichas chitta badang hareyasha jagat pavitram pagunita karajit. Crow likes. Those words, which may be very nicely composed in English or any language, but do not glorify the Lord, are like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. The swan-like devotees don't go there. Tad bhagavasargo janatagavimla. But those words which, the literary composition, bhagavasargo means the creation of words, which are meant to bring about a revolution in this world's misdirected civilization, and which glorify the endless Lord Krishna and even though imperfectly composed, they don't have so literary ornaments. They're heard, chanted, and accepted by the great souls. And then the third one, Naishkamya Vichidabhanabhardam. This is for the impersonalists. Yes, I have no fruitive activity, but it's devoid of Achyuta Bhava. There's no relation to Krishna. It's not coming from bhakti. That doesn't look very well. That can't really help, So those 3 verses are repeated in this. And he says, these verses are very important. And then he gets into the result of this hearing about Krishna, which is an eternal festival for the mind. That's also in these verses. Is constant remembrance, no forgetfulness of Krishna's lotus feet, which is our goal in life. Any questions, comments? One on Zoom? Pending. Okay, we have a local. Please.
Comment and a question. My comment is this verse, Anuklena Sankalpa Pratikulya Savarjitam. This verse in the Bhakti Sandarbha, and Jiva Goswami says that the Sarup Lakshan of that verse is Gopridve Varanam Tata, to accept Krishna as my maintainer, which means that I accept that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. And by following that principle of just imbibing this abhiman, this conception of oneself, then the tatasta lakshana, the other qualities of surrender, automatically manifest in the devotee. So I've always appreciated this explanation by Jiva Goswami, because it makes the process of surrender very accessible. You just have to accept this principle. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna.
The foundation is that Gopridve Varanam,
and
all the others follow.
And then everything follows. Because as soon as one accepts that they're an eternal servant of Krishna, they'll reject everything that's unfavorable and accept everything that's favorable. They'll feel that Krishna's protecting me because he's my master. They'll be naturally humble because they'll see where Krishna is and where they are. And they'll constantly depend on the will of Krishna because they consider themselves a servant of Krishna.
Very interesting. Thank you for that insight.
And then my question is, I heard a devotee explain this to me in Pune, but I've never seen a reference from Prabhupada, but it seems to make sense, so I'd like to kind of just revert it to you. The devotee was explaining that the Bhagavatam marg, the process of hearing and chanting, is always remembering Krishna, and then never forgetting Krishna is the Pancharatrika Vidhi marg. So you have any comment on this? You've ever heard anything?
No, I never heard anything like that. So Bhagavat Vidhi is always remembering?
Always remembering Krishna, and then Pancharatrika Vidhi is never forgetting, because Bhagavat marg, we're hearing and chanting, so we're remembering Krishna. And in Pancharatrika Vidhi marg, we're not necessarily like engaging in hearing and chanting, but we're engaging in so many formulas in order to...
You have to be...
Exactly. So you can't forget because there's so many details and you're doing it for the purpose of Krishna. So it makes sense, but I've just never heard it.
That I don't think is coming from Prabhupada. It maybe come from a previous acharya or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating too. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes. Okay. Another local.
Yeah. About this singing Tulsi, singing to Tulsi every morning. I was listening to a lecture by Tamal Krishna Goswami, and he was saying that he was speaking to Sridhar Swami, Srila Prabhupada's godbrother.
Yeah.
And Tamal Krishna Goswami was saying, making this point that Sridhar Swami told him. He was surprised that our Srila Prabhupada introduced that song. I mean, Sridhar Swami wasn't critical towards Prabhupada for that, but he was just saying, wow, this is very surprising. This is a very advanced song, and it's amazing that Prabhupada introduced this. He said in the Gaudiya Math, we wouldn't sing this song as in our programs for people and this and that. So
interesting. Yeah, there's kind of two parts of it. There's the song, the Tulsi prayer, and then there's Yani Kani Papani, which is kind of, that's where we're at. We need to get free, And some say, well, there was some criticism, which I won't mention, well, that's Rasabas, you're going to do Namo Namo Tulasi, then you're way beyond worrying about Yani Kani Papani. But we need both. We need the Yani Kani. We need to get free of the sins. But it is fascinating that Prabhupada gave us that. Okay, Zoom. I wonder who it is.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. May I?
Please.
Prabhu, my question is, why is it that in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that if I become attracted to a beautiful, if I see a beautiful woman, I become attracted, and that is a fault. He calls it a faulty vision. Why is that?
Well, the exact wording is, the sight of a beautiful woman immediately attracts a man, and then he says the sight of a man attracts a woman. So Krishna, however, is transcendental to all these faults. Well, we're talking about material attraction. In other words, Krishna is certainly attracted to Radharani and vice versa. So that's not a fault. But this is talking about conditioned souls in material bodies becoming attracted to other conditioned souls in material bodies, specifically in this case a man toward a woman. So that's the original fault. That's what's keeping us here. The idea is that that's the expression of karma. And we know that karma is, as I explained, is prema that's been perverted reflection. So on the material plane, the sight of a beautiful woman for a man, or the sight of an attractive man for a woman, is a great fault that is for the soul, and that needs to be purified by the process of bhakti yoga to escape from this prison house. But Krishna, he's transcendental all these faults. He is attracted by the gopis, but it's a different. It's based on love, and their attraction to him is based on the desire to serve, to express their love. There's no the karma, as we quoted that verse, is based on desire for our own sense gratification. So Krishna, he's enjoying by receiving the service from the gopis, and they're enjoying by giving him the service. There's no tinge of a fault or sin or anything like that. And so that's the difference between lust and love. That's why he calls it a fault here, Prabhu.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, as usual, brilliant answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Whatever brilliance is there, because I just quoted the Shastra. Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Justin. Hello? Zoomer? Still. What do you say, Govardhan? Still there?
Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, thank you for the class, Prabhu.
Sure.
You mentioned that we should always remember Krishna and avoid things when we forget Krishna, or that make us forget. Any advice on how to avoid those things that make us forget?
Yeah, well, the best way is to join the ashram. I know that may not be feasible. The great advantage, just on a impartial view, the whole idea of the temple life is that everything will remind you of Krishna. Even some mundane thing like a broom, it's Krishna's broom. It's my duty to use the broom for Krishna. So what to speak of the temple, the deities, the prasadam, the devotees, the holy name. The whole idea is, as Prabhupada said, I've created this. This was in 26 Second Avenue. I make duties, so that their whole day will be filled with things to do to remind us of Krishna. So, but for those who are living outside, it's obviously a challenge. But a big part of it is to create your environment where you live, and what's on the walls, the sounds that are playing, the books as far as possible, whatever you have in in your home that you can change is to remind you of Krishna. Learn the art of cooking for Krishna, offering, and taking prasadam. That's a very important aspect. But in other words, you have to learn from devotees, and we have books, how to turn your home into a temple as far as possible. A place where everything will remind you of Krishna, what sounds you hear, what sights you see, what books you read. It's difficult outside, and that's why it's so important to try to visit the temple as much as possible, or these days, get online what you choose to see. You can be attending Mangalartik in Mayapur if you want, if you really want to. Dandavats.com is so rich, you know. So there's numerous ways, if one wants to become Krishna conscious, to become Krishna conscious. The most important thing for someone living outside is to establish a regimen of morning program where you have a minimum number of rounds that you decided to chant that you can fit in before you have to go to work, say, or school, and that you gradually eliminate those things which are influences that take your mind away from Krishna, and learn about the four regs and everything. It's all voluntary, but these things help you to fill your mind more and more with Krishna, so that even when you're outside the temple, even when you're in work, you can still remember Krishna, in certain instances, and work to fill your day with Krishna consciousness. So there's ways of doing it, and there's devotees who are doing it, and you can consult them. Those who are jobs, but still are Krishna conscious, chanting 16 rounds, and becoming Krishna conscious. It's more difficult outside, but it's possible to make advancement. And that's the best I can do, Prabhu. Okay, Justin?
Nice. Thank you.
Sure, Haribol. Hogle Shri Prabhupada. Haribol. Sorry, I went over time.